You were not born to crawl. You were not fashioned to beg for your destiny. You were not sent into this world merely to survive, to obey, to surrender your genius to emotion, to the whims of chance, or to the tyrannies of mood. No, you were born with the greatest gift God ever gave man, the ability to think, to choose, to will, to master the world within and thereby govern the world without. And yet, look at the multitudes, lost in reaction, addicted to approval, slaves to their feelings, bowing before the altar of convenience, seeking happiness in the fleeting, and never daring to command themselves as a king commands his empire. The common man waits for permission to act. The great man grants it to himself, and it begins, as all greatness begins, in the silent chamber of the mind. What separates the poor in spirit from the rich in destiny is not luck, lineage, or the lips of fate. It is habit, daily, deliberate, intelligent habit. For habit is the bridge between the inner and the outer. It is the proof of belief, the soul's signature written in action. If you wish to change your results, change your routines. But more importantly, change the mind that forms them. And if you would be rich not only in money, but in power, peace, purpose, then I will now show you 5 habits that no man may possess and remain ordinary. 5 disciplines that, if made daily rituals, will transform a wandering life into a tower of strength and silent influence. These are not rituals of superstition, but of spiritual authority. They are the tools of those who build empires from silence and command from stillness. The first habit is mental solitude before dawn. While the world still sleeps, while the air is still heavy with the whispers of yesterday's thoughts, rise. Not to scroll or to chatter, but to sit in the quiet with yourself. This is not meditation for comfort. This is war counsel. You will sit like a general preparing for battle, and you will ask yourself, not what the day holds, but what you will demand from it. For no man may conquer the hour who has not first conquered himself. Mental solitude trains your mind to obey you, and the mind that obeys you will one day obey no one else. In that sacred hour before the world speaks, you will remember this. You are not your thoughts, you are the one who commands them. The undisciplined mind is a traitor within the gates. It panics, it doubts, it flees. But when trained, the mind becomes your sword clear, sharp, obedient. Think deliberately, direct your focus, and above all, reject the chaos of reaction. Because hear me now, the poor man reacts, the rich man responds. And there lies the difference. Reaction is blind emotion. Response is reason, backed by purpose. One is slavery to the moment. The other is mastery of destiny. When you feel anger, pause. When you feel fear, examine it. When you feel doubt, challenge it. Your ability to interrupt emotion with thought is your gateway to wealth. The second habit, and the most misunderstood, is emotional detachment. Do not misunderstand me. This is not the absence of feeling, but the dominion over it. You were given emotions as messengers, not as masters. The man who follows every fear, every pleasure, every sudden thrill or tremble is no better than a leaf in the wind. To be rich, you must detach from the outcome, not because it does not matter, but because obsession blinds you. The seed does not grow because you scream at the soil. It grows because you do your duty and let nature work in silence. So too with success. You do not chase riches, you attract them. And attraction is not frantic. It is composed, resolved, disciplined. The emotionally detached man is not cold. He is calm. And calmness is power. In negotiation, calmness wins. In decision, calmness sees. In conflict, calmness controls. The man who does not react has already won. If you lose your temper, you lose your leverage. If you argue to be right, you surrender your energy. And if you need validation, you have already placed your soul on auction. Cut the cords of emotional need. You must need nothing from anyone. Respect is commanded through self-respect. And love, when given freely and not demanded, carries the scent of royalty. Now I give you the third habit, definiteness of purpose practiced daily. It is not enough to wish vaguely. The universe responds to clarity, not confusion. The wealthy man does not ask, will this work? He says, this will be done. You must declare your aim, write it, see it, breathe it, affirm it until your bones believe it. Then act as if it is inevitable. Your definiteness of purpose is your North Star. It aligns your will. It silences distractions. It burns through excuses. Without it, you are prey to every opinion, every wind of doubt. But with it, you become a locomotive slow to start, but impossible to stop. It is better to walk boldly in one direction than run in 10. For success is not about speed, it is about certainty. Every morning, write your purpose. Every evening, reflect on your progress. Every hour, ask yourself, is this action aligned with my aim? Do not drift. A drifting mind is a dying dream. The fourth habit is delayed gratification, the law of sacrifice. The poor man spends first and regrets later. The rich man invests first and multiplies later. If you seek comfort before conquest, you will have neither. But if you sacrifice the trivial for the meaningful, you will inherit both power and peace. Discipline is the refusal of what is easy for what is excellent. It is saying no to now in service of later. Every donut not eaten, every hour not wasted, every dollar not spent frivolously, these are the bricks of your empire. But the greatest form of delayed gratification is thought before speech. The weak man must always say something. The strong man speaks only when it serves his strategy. Learn silence. Learn patience. Learn to let others reveal themselves while you remain veiled. A quiet man is underestimated, and underestimated men win battles without firing a shot. Finally, the fifth habit, the crown jewel, is self-suggestion. You must speak to yourself as a king would speak to his general, with vision, with command, with certainty. You are always programming your mind. The only question is, are you doing it deliberately? Stand before the mirror and declare, I am calm, I am clear, I am powerful. My destiny bows to my will. This is not arrogance, this is alignment. Autosuggestion is the act of turning belief into biology. What you impress on the mind, the body obeys. And what the body repeats, the world reflects. Do not wait to feel confident. Speak confidence into your bones. Do not wait to feel wealthy. Think and act as if wealth is chasing you. The subconscious does not judge, it executes. Feed it purpose, and it will build purpose. Feed it fear, and it will build prisons. Each of these 5 habits, though simple in word, are rare in practice. For the average man seeks secrets, but the wise man masters principles. Simplicity is not weakness, it is power refined. If you make these 5 your rituals, solitude, detachment, purpose, sacrifice, suggestion, then you will find that success becomes predictable. Not easy, but inevitable. Now let me tell you a final truth. The world will not hand you the crown. It will test you, tempt you, torment you. It will ask, are you sure? Again and again. But every time you choose discipline over distraction, stillness over chaos, vision over emotion, you answer, yes, I am. And eventually the world will kneel, not because it was kind, but because you were unbreakable. You are not here to blend in. You are here to build, to lead, to rise. And it begins not in grand gestures, but in daily habits executed with ruthless consistency and sacred conviction. Begin tomorrow. Begin today. Begin now. And never stop. You must understand this law. Nothing external can grant you the wealth you seek until you become the kind of person who can command it, sustain it, multiply it, and remain free in its presence. Riches without inner mastery are chains made of gold. They glitter, but they bind. That is why every habit I speak of is not aimed at the world, but at the world within you. Because when you master the within, the without yields. You have been told to hustle, to grind, to burn out your body in the name of ambition. But I tell you, the most powerful form of work is the kind that begins in silence. All empires begin as ideas, and all true wealth begins with thought mastery. The man who cannot govern his impulses cannot govern his future. The man who cannot discipline his attention cannot direct his results. And the man who cannot detach from emotion cannot choose wisely, cannot lead calmly, cannot stand firmly when the storm comes. So I say again, your first battle is within. You do not need more noise, you need more authority over your own state. And that authority begins with your ability to say to yourself, not today. I will not be moved by fear. I will not be owned by approval. I will not chase. I will attract. I will not beg. I will build. Every single day, you are either reinforcing weakness or installing strength. Every thought repeated is a nail, and you are either building a throne or a cage. So choose well. And do not think that emotions are random. They are not. They are habits. Emotional states can be trained through repetition, through suggestion, through refusal to indulge weakness. Train yourself to feel calm in crisis. Train yourself to feel composed in rejection. Train yourself to feel power where others feel pressure. This is not magic, this is mind. You are the only creature on earth who can observe his own thoughts. That makes you the only creature capable of rewriting his fate. But you must stop thinking like a creature and start thinking like a creator. No more blaming, no more waiting, no more explaining your smallness to small people. You owe them nothing. You owe yourself everything. And you must stop asking for motivation. Do not seek to feel like doing it. Feelings are guests. Discipline is the owner of the house. Let the guests pass, but never let them rule. You will not rise because you felt like rising. You will rise because you decided and kept deciding. When the alarm rings at 5 a.m., you do not negotiate. You move. When the work must be done, you do not wait for flow. You create it. When the temptation whispers, you silence it with action. And when the mind begins to doubt, you drown it in your declarations. Repeat after me, not out loud, but into your subconscious. I am the cause, I am the command, I am the calm. I do not need comfort, I create greatness. I do not fear the unknown, I walk into it like a king walks into his throne room. I do not lower myself to fit mediocrity. I elevate until even silence listens. That is the tone you must set, and you must set it daily. The wealthy man does not affirm once he affirms constantly, because repetition is the root of belief. What you say with conviction, your subconscious will defend with action. And beware of this trap, the need to be understood. It is the silent killer of purpose. The average man seeks agreement. The superior man seeks alignment, but only with his highest aim. Do not dilute your clarity for the comfort of the crowd. The clearer you become, the more you will be misunderstood. Let it be. Let them stare. Let them whisper. Let them laugh. But never let them lead your mind. Because every time you compromise for comfort, you betray your crown. And every time you sacrifice purpose for popularity, you bury your own power. And let us speak now of thoughts, the raw material of destiny. You think they are just reactions, but I say unto you, they are blueprints. If you allow doubt to remain unchallenged, it will build a ceiling in your soul. If you allow fear to go unrebuked, it will build a cage around your courage. But if you take each thought and weigh it as a wise man weighs gold, you will begin to see which ones deserve life. Do not entertain every thought. Interrogate them. Demand evidence. Demand alignment. Ask, does this thought serve my vision or does it serve my weakness? And if it does not serve the empire you are building, destroy it. This is what I call accurate thinking, and it is a lost art. In a world addicted to emotion, the thinker becomes king. The man who can delay reaction, demand reason, and apply judgment, that man becomes a force. And if you would master this, you must create space. Space between stimulus and response. That sacred pause is where power lives. When someone insults you, there is a flash of emotion, then the moment where you choose. Will you react and match their chaos? Or will you remain sovereign, unaffected, composed? That is what it means to command the self. And if you seek to build wealth, understand that wealth flows to those who control energy, not just external energy, but inner frequency. You must become magnetic, not frantic. And magnetism is born of composure. The man who moves slowly, speaks deliberately, and thinks clearly, he becomes irresistible to both people and opportunity. Now listen closely. You cannot fake calm. You must become it. And to become calm, you must face storms willingly. This is why hardship is a gift. It reveals to you your own inner disorder. It is not the hardship that defeats you, it is your reaction to it. So thank the storm, for it shows you where you must train. Hardship is the gym of the elite. Each challenge is a weight, each pain is resistance, each rejection is a rep. And if you lift them properly with posture, with discipline, with breath, you grow. But if you flee from them, you shrink. and small men never inherit great thrones. Now I give you this warning, and let it strike deeply. Beware of mental clutter. You do not need more information. You need more execution. The mind was not built to hold chaos. It was built to hold clarity. And clarity comes from order. Each day, take 10 minutes to review your aim, your habits, your decisions. Clean your mental house, clear your desk, close the tabs in your browser. Stop hoarding knowledge and start practicing wisdom. It is not what you know, it is what you do daily that shapes your fate. Do not seek secrets. Seek consistency. Do not chase shiny distractions. Build dull habits that glitter with compound results. Do not idolize the rich. Study the patterns that made them so. The pattern is always the same. Early rising, focus, control of emotion, clarity of purpose, mastery of self. And above all, they act. While others overthink, they begin. While others complain, they build. While others doubt, they declare. And the world moves for them not because they are lucky, but because they are immovable. Let this be your mantra. I am not swayed, I am not rushed, I am not owned, I am not waiting, I act. Because nothing changes until you move. Thought is the architect, but action is the hammer. Build your house with both. And what kind of house will you build? A castle of comfort or a fortress of purpose? Choose. But know this, the world will reflect whatever foundation you pour. So lay your bricks each morning. Wake early not because it is fashionable, but because it is sacred. Speak your aim not for applause, but for alignment. Delay gratification not to suffer, but to become powerful. Train your emotions not to suppress, but to command. And speak to yourself not as a victim, but as the sovereign force you were born to be. This is the way of the few, the path of the unshakable, the ritual of the rich, and it begins again tomorrow. Understand this, poverty begins in the mind long before it manifests in the wallet, and so does wealth. Before there is a balance sheet, there is a belief system. Before there is a business, there is a burning decision. Before there is success, there is structure, mental, emotional, spiritual. No man stumbles into greatness. He installs it habit by habit, refusal by refusal, demand by demand. Let me make it plain. If you are still triggered by insult, you are not ready for influence. If you are still addicted to urgency, you are not ready for strategy. If you are still seeking praise, you are not yet walking your purpose. If you are still explaining yourself to doubters, then you have not yet built your throne. The throne is not inherited. It is not gifted. It is not voted upon by others. It is seized by the man who finally says, I will no longer live beneath my potential. And from that day forward, he no longer asks what's easy. He asks what's required. He no longer speaks carelessly. He speaks only when his words carry will. He no longer runs from rejection. He welcomes it because it tests his clarity. He no longer allows thoughts to run wild. He disciplines them with the same intensity a general disciplines a disloyal soldier, because every undisciplined thought is a betrayal of vision, and every betrayal tolerated becomes a habit. That's how mediocrity is born, not in one collapse, but in 1,000 tiny surrenders. So you must reverse it. Every day, reclaim territory. Every hour, sharpen awareness. Every moment, act as though your legacy depends on it, because it does. You must become an architect of your mind, not a wanderer in your moods. The architect studies his plans. He adjusts, rewrites, refines. The wanderer reacts. He drifts. He hopes. And hope, without a plan, is a coward's prayer. Let me tell you something the world won't. Success is not emotional. It is mechanical. It is built on laws, not feelings. And those laws do not care how you feel today. They care how you behave. So behave like the person you intend to become. Walk into a room like your time is rare. Speak like your words carry consequence. Choose like your future is built one decision at a time. Listen and listen with intensity, because one insight can change the course of your destiny, but it will only land on a prepared mind, a disciplined mind, a quiet mind. So eliminate distraction, not casually, violently. Be ruthless with your environment. Remove people who waste your energy. Cut off conversations that dilute your clarity. Unplug from opinions that don't build your character. Silence the noise because the inner voice will not compete. The inner voice whispers, "You are more than this." And your job every single day is to act like that whisper is law. But the problem is most people don't hear it, not because it isn't speaking, but because they are too loud inside, too busy, too consumed with proving, performing, pretending. They've never sat long enough in silence to meet themselves. But you must. You must become terrifyingly aware of who you are, what you want, and where you're going. And that clarity will cost you. It will cost your excuses. It will cost your laziness. It will cost the shallow relationships that feed your comfort but starve your greatness. Clarity always demands sacrifice, but it repays with peace, because once you know, truly know, what you are building every day becomes sacred. Every action becomes purposeful. Every choice becomes a declaration. And that is the difference between those who drift and those who dominate. Drifters seek pleasure. Dominators seek alignment. Ask yourself, is this food aligned with my peak state? Is this conversation aligned with my values? Is this decision aligned with my goal? And if it is not, eliminate it, not tomorrow, now. This is not discipline for its own sake. This is alignment with power. Because every time you choose alignment over indulgence, you upgrade your self-image, and self-image is destiny. You will never outperform the way you see yourself. So, speak to yourself like a general, walk like a king, move like your time is currency, and act like every breath is an investment in empire. Do you hear me? You do not need more potential. You are already overflowing with it. What you need is precision, and precision comes from repetition. So do not change your habits when you feel inspired. Change them because you made a vow to never again live beneath your calling, a vow to never again speak weakness into your future, a vow to never again tolerate a version of yourself that begs for scraps when you were born to rule. You are not here to fit in. You are here to reshape the mold. But that begins not in public, not on stages, not on platforms. It begins in the invisible hours, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when it's just you and the truth that you could be more, the truth that you should be more, the truth that every second you delay, the throne remains empty. So rise, not once, not sometimes, daily. Rise before the world, rise before your doubts, rise before the excuses, assemble their army, rise in thought, in speech, in posture, because the rich are not born, they are trained, and you must train daily with intention, with fury, with reverence for what you are becoming. The man who trains his mind becomes untouchable. He does not panic, he does not plead, he does not perform, he simply is. Unshaken, unmoved, undeniable. And if you want to be that man, then build your days with sacred repetition. Wake early not to impress, but to rule. Think clearly not to escape, but to conquer. Act decisively not to be right, but to create results. Speak with weight not to be heard, but to build belief. And never break your own word, because the man who lies to himself fractures his throne. Keep your promises, especially the ones no one hears, especially the ones you made in silence, especially the ones you whispered to yourself when no one believed, because that is the foundation of wealth. And now you are beginning to see, not with your eyes, but with your will. Let that vision expand. Let it burn away what is false. Let it reveal what is possible. It is not your conditions that decide your fate. It is your conditioning, the patterns you repeat without thought, the inner commands you obey without question. And if those commands are rooted in fear, doubt, laziness, approval seeking, or emotional impulsivity, you are not free. You are not powerful. You are not rich. You are possessed. Possessed by habits you didn't choose. Possessed by beliefs you didn't challenge. Possessed by the silent voices of weak men, men who gave up long ago, and now whisper mediocrity into your bloodstream. You must cast them out. Cast out the belief that your emotions are truth. Cast out the belief that struggle is a sign to stop. Cast out the belief that greatness belongs to others. These are not truths. These are lies that keep the herd asleep. And you were not born to sleep. You were born to command. But command is not inherited. It is built in your daily routine, your repeated thoughts, your unflinching decisions. And what is command? It is not domination of others. It is domination of self. When your mind screams, give up, you whisper, keep going. When your feelings plead, slow down, you tighten your grip. When the world distracts you, return to your aim. This is what it means to be unstoppable. Not that you never feel weakness, but that weakness has no vote. You are not a democracy. You are a throne. And only you decide what is law. So I ask you, what law do you live by? Do you serve emotion or mission? Do you bend to impulse or bend impulse to your will? Do you wait for permission or do you declare intention and move? Because the rich, the truly rich, are not the ones with money in hand, but clarity in mind. They see farther, they act sooner, they react slower, they need less, they do more. They are not enslaved to the calendar. They bend time with their focus. They are not waiting for inspiration. They manufacture it by movement. They are not obsessed with balance. They are obsessed with alignment. And you will know you are becoming one of them when you stop asking, what do I feel like doing today? And start asking, what must I become to fulfill my purpose? Because that question changes everything. It raises your standard. It cuts your excuses. It burns away what is trivial. It humbles you, and it strengthens you, because it reminds you that your life is not a lottery ticket, it is a blueprint. But that blueprint remains paper until you execute. So execute. Decide. Move. Refuse to leave your destiny in theory. Because every time you act in alignment with your purpose, you reinforce identity, and identity is the gatekeeper of habit. Do you understand? The man who acts rich not in luxury, but in discipline becomes rich. The man who thinks like a king not in arrogance, but in clarity becomes one. The man who walks in silence not for attention, but for power becomes feared and respected. It is all identity, and identity is not found, it is built. So build, brick by brick, choice by choice, minute by minute. Build with solitude in the morning. Build with stillness in conflict. Build with refusal to explain your greatness to the mediocre. Build with repetition, sacred, unbroken, unshakable repetition. Because repetition is not boring, it is holy. It is the prayer of the disciplined, the hymn of the focused, the song of the great. And I will tell you now what most will never say: you are not tired, you are distracted, you are not broken, you are untrained, you are not weak, you are undecided. Decide. And when you do, you will feel your past fall off like dead skin. You will feel your old circle stare in confusion. You will feel your mind resist but keep going, because you are walking into rare air now, air reserved for the few, air that tastes of destiny, not comfort. And in this air, everything changes. Time slows. Focus sharpens. Emotion obeys. Purpose roars. And wealth, not just financial, but spiritual, relational, generational, begins to flow. Because wealth flows where order lives. And order lives where discipline reigns. And discipline reigns where identity is non-negotiable. So from this day forward, become intolerant of inconsistency. Do not allow your future to depend on whether or not you feel like it. Do not build a life on mood. Build it on moral obligation to your highest self. This is the true definition of mental toughness, doing what your legacy requires, not what your emotions prefer. And every day you choose that you become more still, more precise, more respected, more dangerous. Yes, dangerous. Because a man who no longer needs the approval of others cannot be manipulated. A man who no longer chases pleasure cannot be bribed. A man who no longer fears solitude cannot be controlled. And that is what makes a man rich, not the dollars in his pocket, but the dominion over his life. So I ask you, what owns you? If it is fear, cut it. If it is habit, rewrite it. If it is environment, change it. If it is people, release them. If it is thought, confront it, defeat it, and install a new one. Because thoughts are not sacred. They are not sovereign. They are tools. And if a tool no longer serves you, discard it. This is how kings think. They do not worship thoughts. They wield them. And when a thought becomes dull, they sharpen it or destroy it. Let this be your daily ritual. Audit your thoughts. Audit your reactions. Audit your relationships. Audit your choices. And ask, does this serve my highest self? If not, burn it. No apologies. No justifications. No nostalgia. Burn it. Because every time you keep something that insults your purpose, you insult your own soul. And no rich man has ever insulted his soul and survived it. So protect it, not softly, ruthlessly. Because the soul, your will, your mission, your fire, is the source of all wealth. Protect it like royalty protects the crown. Because you are royalty, but only if you act like it. There is a voice inside you, not the loud one that pleads for comfort or complains about circumstances, but the silent one, the voice beneath the noise, the one that already knows what you must become. That voice has been buried by culture, by distraction, by the dull repetition of a world that worships the mediocre and mocks the disciplined. But that voice is not dead. It waits. It waits for the moment you become quiet enough and brave enough to hear it. And when you finally hear it, not with your ears, but with your spine, you will never be the same. That voice will not ask you what you want, it will tell you what you are. It will say, you are not a follower. You are not a product of circumstance. You are not the sum of their opinions. You are a force, and you have work to do. And then you will begin. Not because you're motivated, but because you remembered. Remembered your royalty. Remembered your fire. Remembered the oath you once made in secret to never again betray your greatness. From that moment on, your life will no longer run on default. It will run on decision. And what is decision? It is the cutting off of all other options. It is the sacrifice of the easy path. It is the declaration that the old self is no longer invited into the future. But understand that old self will not die quietly. It will beg. It will seduce. It will whisper. Let's be reasonable. But there is nothing reasonable about greatness. There is nothing polite about transformation. There is nothing balanced about obsession. And that is what it takes: obsession with excellence, obsession with discipline, obsession with becoming so focused, so self-governed, so deliberate that the universe has no choice but to respond. Because life does not reward the most talented. It rewards the most aligned. And alignment is not about what you say. It is about what you do when no one is watching. It is how you treat your habits like sacred rituals. It is how you show up on the days when the world offers you 1,000 reasons to shrink. It is how you stay unmoved in a society addicted to reaction. Let me say this clearly. The world is screaming. Your power is in silence. The world is chasing. Your wealth is in stillness. The world is pretending. Your influence is in authenticity. And the deeper you go into this work, the work of mastering your emotions, disciplining your thoughts, commanding your attention, the more you become untouchable. Because the man who has trained his mind is free. Free from triggers. Free from need. Free from the exhausting burden of proving. He does not seek the light, he is the light. He does not beg for peace, he carries peace. He does not chase purpose, he walks in it. And when he speaks, the world listens. Not because he's louder, but because he means it. And if you want that not in theory, but in blood, in breath, in being, then you must pay the price. That price is daily. That price is private. That price is repetition, repetition, repetition. You do not rise once and become rich. You rise every morning and become worthy of it again. You do not train discipline once and expect mastery. You sharpen it daily, like a warrior sharpens his blade, knowing that one dull day could cost you everything. You do not learn detachment and move on. You practice it in every moment of insult, every moment of delay, every moment when emotion knocks but is not allowed in. And in that relentless practice, you become more dangerous to your doubts, more magnetic to power, more free from the world's illusions. Because wealth is not just dollars. It is distance, distance from emotional chaos, from needy validation, from unconscious reaction. It is the power to choose your state, no matter the storm. And that power is available to you now, but only if you decide. So, I ask you again, not gently, but as a final confrontation, will you lead yourself? Will you break the spell of emotional slavery? Will you train your mind until it obeys without negotiation? Will you hold yourself to a standard so high that the world has no choice but to respect it? Will you stop performing and start building? Will you trade the comfort of being liked for the crown of being respected? Will you stop asking, what if it's hard, and start asking, what if I never do this? Because if you don't, you already know the answer. You will join the many, the tired, the distracted, the ones who almost changed, but didn't. But if you do, if you rise when it would be easier to rest, if you act when it would be safer to delay, if you build when it would be easier to blame, then you will cross a sacred line, from victim to architect, from reactor to ruler, from noise to legend. And you will not need applause. You will not need permission. You will not need the crowd, because the man who leads himself no longer waits. He no longer explains. He no longer negotiates with lesser versions of who he once was. He walks forward, eyes clear, mind sharp, soul still. And in his stillness, the world moves. You were not born to apologize for your power. You were not built to remain small. The breath in your lungs is not a debt to fear. It is a declaration of war against limitation. But too many men betray themselves quietly. They do not fall loudly, with screams and smoke and flames to number. They fade. They fade slowly, comfortably, under warm blankets of distraction. They fade behind screens, in scrolls, in pointless talk, in tomorrow. They die inside by degrees each time they silence their inner roar just to be polite to mediocrity. Do not let that be you. Because every time you choose silence over truth, every time you choose convenience over discipline, every time you choose delay over decision, you abandon the throne you were born to rule, and the longer you delay, the more your soul suffers. Do you feel it? That ache in your chest when you're not aligned? That sting in your gut when you compromise your standard? That whisper in the dark that says, this isn't it? That is not depression. That is your soul waking up and realizing you are living beneath your design. And that ache will not go away with distractions, vacations, or praise from others. It will only be silenced by execution when your outer life finally rises to match the standard of your inner knowing. That knowing that fire inside, it's older than you. It's what pulled you here. It's what whispered to you while the world tried to numb you. It's what brought you to the edge of this transformation. And now it demands a decision, not a wish, not a feeling, not a mood, a decision. Because success, real, generational, unshakable success does not arrive as a reward for dabbling. It arrives as a consequence of devotion. You must devote your mind to a standard so high that the old you cannot survive in its presence. You must devote your time to becoming so skilled, so focused, so precise that mediocrity begins to fear your name. You must devote your mornings to command. You must devote your evenings to reflection. You must devote your thoughts to accuracy. You must devote your emotions to obedience. And you must do it daily. Not sometimes. Not when inspired. Not when it's convenient. Daily. Because success is not a summit. It is a rhythm. It is a spiritual beat you train yourself to move to, even when you're tired, even when you're hurt, even when you're doubted, even when you're bored. Especially when you're bored. Because boredom is the final test. The test most men fail. They think success is supposed to feel good. They think building a legacy should be thrilling. They think discipline should entertain them. So they stop, and they wonder why they remain average. But the rare ones, the ones who rise, they train until boredom becomes bliss. They train until repetition becomes revelation. They train until simplicity becomes sacred. Because they know greatness is not about variety, it's about depth. How deep are you willing to go? How many mornings are you willing to rise alone? How many times are you willing to repeat the same habit, the same affirmation, the same exact action, not because it feels exciting, but because it builds power? That is the question. That is the gate. And only a few walk through it. But those who do, they become immortal. They become the names others whisper. They become the examples that silence excuses. They become the proof that power is not given, it is earned. Earned in solitude. Earned in repetition. Earned in the dark, long before the world ever applauds. And here's the secret: the applause will never matter again. Because once you lead yourself, once you feel what it's like to command your own mind, to be loyal to your own soul, to become unshakable, there is no going back. You no longer need permission. You no longer chase praise. You no longer ask, do they understand me? You ask, did I honor my standard today? Because that becomes enough. That becomes everything. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. You stop reacting. You start initiating. You stop hoping. You start deciding. And then the world begins to bend. Opportunities appear. People follow. Result compound. Not because you changed the world, but because you changed yourself. And so now, I will leave you with no encouragement, no you can do it, no feel-good fairy tale, because if you've listened this far, you no longer need it. What you need is not comfort. What you need is the mirror. Look into it tonight and ask the only question that matters. Is this the man who will lead me to my destiny? If the answer is no, change him. Change his thoughts. Change his habits. Change his circle. Change his identity. And change him ruthlessly, not later, not eventually, now. Because time is not patient. Destiny does not wait. And every day you delay, your crown rusts. So rise and make yourself worthy of it.